Donald Morrison was caught during the to catch a predator sting of Fort Myers, Florida. He was 48 years old at the time and believed that he was talking to a 15-year-old female. Over the course of this video, I will review Donald's chat log with the perverted justice decoy and take a look at the confrontation with Chris Hansen. The information that is available to us is just a small window into Donald's life, a window that I will be using to speculate on what may have been going on with him around the time of this incident. The commentary that I provide on this situation is for entertainment purposes. Be warned, the content of this video is verbally graphic. Viewer discretion is highly advised. Due to community guideline violations, I will no longer be able to present the chat log portion of these videos on YouTube. This is something that I find to be completely understandable. The content within those pages is absolutely abhorrent, and I didn't really shy away from shining a spotlight on some of those many nasty words. If that section of video is something that interests you, you can find the chat log sections over on my Patreon. I greatly appreciate the support if you do decide to jump over. With that out of the way now, let's dive right in and see what happens over at the Sting House.
Hello.
Hey, come on in!
Well, you got a big house.
Try one of my cookies, they're so good.
Chocolate chip's my favorite.
Mine too.
When I make them for Christmas, I make about 10 dozen of them.
Whoa, why so many?
Because we usually got family in from the up north. We had like 14 of us here this year.
Holy cow.
Can I get you a glass of milk to go along with those cookies?
Sure.
When reviewing this moment, I found myself repeatedly asking, what is Donald? For starters, as you saw me pick on quite a bit through his chat log, it appears that he really likes things to be clean. He definitely wanted the decoy to be clean. Yet here he stands, looking like something that represents anything but clean. There's a big old stain of something on his shirt, and there is varying reports online as to what this is. Grease? Coffee? Boob sweat? Personally, I don't have the strongest opinion of what it may be, but what baffles me more about it is his seemingly lack of shame in this moment. The man is 48 years old, clearly has something on his shirt, unfortunately for him is overweight and is losing hair, and all round looks like someone who's not taking care of themselves. At the very least, it looks as though he's having a really bad day. To further add to this image of a docile grub, he looks around the house in awe, stuffs his face with food that has been provided for him, and engages in a casually innocent conversation regarding cookies. The thing about the conversation which I find striking is how calm he is with it. I can't help but to feel as though he is genuinely interacting here. He's not trying to groom with these opening words. He is connecting with another human as they bond over food, talking about the cookies that he bakes for his family. The man looks docile, he sounds docile, harmless even, which in turn is highly troubling due to the reasons that have brought him into this house. Because of his appearance and initial conduct here, it would seem to me that he either does not know what he looks like and how he comes across, or has long lost the ability to feel any sort of timidness due to his presentation. This may sound outwardly harsh, as though I judge people based on appearance or whatnot, but I disagree. Had Donald walked by me in any other situation, I would not take even a moment to analyze his appearance. In the everyday world, people look and speak how they wish, and it's not my business to judge them based on that. There's been some moments in my life where I'm positive that I look like a rat out of hell. I lived out the back of a vehicle for a time there, whilst I drove to the central of Australia in the middle of one of our heated summers. No showers, not many spare clothes, and a spray bottle of water to keep me cool. I guarantee there would have been some people who observed me crawling out of that car some mornings, and likely thought, I will be staying very far away from that creature, thank you very much. My point that I'm making is that I have a very high tolerance for how people look. Yet once a person enters the realm of soliciting a minor, then it is all open for scrutiny, and scrutinize I shall. It makes no sense for Donald to be as outwardly jovial and casual as he is right now. It seems as though he has forgotten that he is nearly half a century old, looks like a slob, and doesn't belong in this house with a minor. He strikes me as just one of this 15-year-old girl's little friends, coming around to his buddy's big house because she has rich parents, and he's wearing his dirty play clothes from the day, eating those cookies that he loves so much, and talking about family Christmas. Donald is a child. A dangerous, horny man-child. What causes this, one might wonder? In my opinion, many things. But we have barely even begun the video segment, so I will leave these thoughts to be broken down later on. What I will say to close this tangent off though, is that putting my feelings of disgust aside, I find Donald to be a very intriguing character indeed.
Can I get you a glass of milk to go along with those cookies?
Sure.
What's going on?
I don't know. I just was talking to her and she said come down and visit her. I have a compulsion with for younger women, just meeting them. I've met about a dozen of them online.
And so this is something you do frequently?
No, I haven't done it I haven't done it since I moved here to Florida.
And where did you live before?
Texas.
And so you did this a lot in Texas? Mm-hmm. Did you ever get in trouble for it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, I got in trouble because I met a girl in Michigan.
Before we listen to Donald's Michigan story, let's go back and pay attention to the way he speaks about the young girl as Hansen first enters.
What's going on?
I don't know. I just was talking to her and she said come down and visit her.
It sounds like she is just an object to Donald. A pawn on the chessboard that Hansen has brought out upon walking in. This is a look into how he really views the young girl. He doesn't refer to her by name. She is not his friend. She is just that, a nameless young female, one in which he has chosen to grace her with his presence on this night.
I have a compulsion with for younger women, just meeting them. I've met about a dozen of them online.
This is an interesting admission to make, and one that will color the rest of this interview. Donald fully admits to his issues with fantasizing about younger girls, yet he will attempt to defend his position of being in the house as innocent, like a cat burglar who was caught in the museum after hours, admitting to authorities that yes, they are most definitely a thief, but on this particular occasion, they just wished to admire the art on display. Not take it.
And so this is something you do frequently?
No, I haven't done it I haven't done it since I moved here to Florida.
And where did you live before?
Texas.
And so you did this a lot in Texas? Mm-hmm. Did you ever get in trouble for it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, I got in trouble because I met a girl in Michigan.
And how old was that girl?
17.
And what trouble did you get in there?
Well, her grandfather wanted me to try to charge me with something. They couldn't do anything. So they arrested me for trying for possessing child pornography because I had nude pictures of her on my computer. They ended up dropping the charges.
I see. And how did you get the naked pictures of the teenage girl?
I met her in Michigan, and I took them.
You took the pictures of the girl? Mm-hmm. And then you put them on your computer?
On my computer, yeah. They were digital pictures.
It's a fine line that Donald is trying to walk here, being as truthful as he possibly can, all whilst looking as good as he can possibly manage.
Well, I got in trouble because I met a girl in Michigan.
And how old was that girl?
17.
And what trouble did you get in there?
Well, her grandfather wanted me to...
It would seem that his mouth has begun to formulate words much quicker than his mind anticipated, leaving it scrambling to catch up. Notice how he takes a moment to pause and chew twice as his mind races around possible exits, and after 2 attempts, he finds the opening that he was so desperately searching for. He chooses to avoid the details of what he did and goes straight to the result. Tell Hansen what the grandfather tried to charge you with, as using the word try implies that said grandfather was unsuccessful. This allows Donald to present himself in an innocent light using the words that he did not speak.
Well, her grandfather wanted me to try to charge me with something. They couldn't do anything. So they arrested me for trying for possessing child pornography because I had nude pictures of her on my computer. They ended up dropping the charges.
Notice the shoulder shrug as he makes these claims. It's intended to subconsciously show Hansen that what he is speaking about is not a big deal. The shoulder shrug is something that we often see people do when they are displaying a sense of confusion and defiance. And Donald is using this movement to emphasize the innocence of his words. He is not only giving Chris a verbal runaround, but a visual one as well, as the casual shoulder shrug conflicts directly with the severity of his spoken words. It's moments like this coming up where I really like Hansen's work. Instead of avoiding the roundabout runaround description that was just fed to him, he opts to dig the knife in and cut away the crap of what Donald had just spun.
And how did you get the naked pictures of the teenage girl?
I met her in Michigan. And I took them.
Although I do find one of my eyebrows raising at Donald's rapid-fire response to Chris's direct confrontation, what I find more notable in this moment is the perfectly placed blink.
I met her in Michigan. And I took
It occurs in a position which could suggest that Donald knows his words harbour a lot of disgusting content, despite his casual demeanour. The man crossed multiple state lines to meet up with this young girl, and he somehow obtained, hopefully not forcefully, but however it was done, it's not a pleasant thought, nude photographs of her. He admits to it, and I see the blink here as a sign that his mind is reacting to how difficult it is keeping his cool whilst saying such a thing to Hansen. It's that moment where his mind buckles and slips a little, like an old wooden door that's been hit with the raging waters of a flash flood, doing its best to hold steady under the pressure, but a small leak springs through.
and I took them
You took the pictures of the girl, and then you put them on your computer.
on my computer. Yeah, they were digital pictures.
How old was the youngest girl you ever met?
17.
17.
Most of them are like 21, 22.
And tonight, though, you were willing to come meet a 15-year-old.
Yeah, I don't know why.
You don't know why.
Well, I know why.
Well, you treat this like, you forgot to pay for some candy at the
No.
grocery store.
I came to meet her because she told me that she was bored. And I said, well, do you want me to come down and meet you? And she said, sure, come on down. So I said, okay. That was it. I know it's wrong. I shouldn't have done it. I knew I shouldn't have done it.
Why'd you do it then?
That pause there was pretty spot on for comedic value, hey?
Tonight, though, you were willing to come meet a 15-year-old.
Yeah, I don't know why.
You don't know why.
Well, I know why.
Well, you treat this like, you forgot to pay for some candy at the
No.
grocery store.
I came to meet her because she told me that she was bored. And I said, well, do you want me to come down and meet you? And she said, sure, come on down. So I said, okay. That was it.
Technically, Donald is not lying. The statement he made is accurate, but much like his story about the grandfather trying to press charges, there's a lot of details that have been left out. Details that absolutely present insight into the intention of why he is here. There is a pattern emerging of how Donald handles confrontations resulting from his own actions, and it would seem that in these moments, he chooses to avoid acknowledging important details in an attempt to evade consequences for his actions. State the facts of the situation, Donald, and leave out the details. It's something that a naughty child would do. Leading directly from this moment, it could be due to editing, or possibly due to Donald's frantic mind panicking at Hansen just staring at him and not responding. He admits his guilt. I'll take the video back a few seconds so you can get a full understanding of the seamless transition that he makes from his defense to the admission of guilt.
She said, sure, come on down. So I said, okay. That was it. I know it's wrong. I shouldn't have done it. I knew I shouldn't have done it.
Why'd you do it then?
I don't know. Just because when people sweet talk me, I fall.
You say, if you are ready for sex, I'll give it to you, but I have erectile dysfunction. Won't get real hard. Sure sounds like you were preparing for a sex act.
I was preparing for it because she said that, I said, if you saw what I said, if you want it, I will give it to you, but I'm not going to force anything that you don't want. I'm not going to force myself on you.
That doesn't make it legal, though.
I know it doesn't make it legal.
I hope you are all getting used to these rewinds, because Donald is not slowing down at all.
Why'd you do it then?
I don't know. Just because when people sweet talk me, I fall.
The victim mentality. He has alluded to it earlier with his dance around the grandfather pressing charges, yet here it rears its head for us to openly see. Donald is saying that he has been sweet-talked by the girl, which resulted in his presence, and I can only assume that he's using this as some sort of tactic to obtain sympathy, hoping that Hansen will say, "Ah hell, Don, you seem like a pretty big loser." Totally understandable that the sweet talk would bring you in like this. And to be fair, it is quite a decent argument if one is trying to understand the man's motives. It's most definitely not a solid argument to clear his name of wrongdoing though. And so from an emotional standing point, I can't help but to take these words and believe them on face value. Maybe it's because he is truly pathetic, or maybe it's because he is fully aware of this pathetic display that he presents, and then utilizes the awareness of his person to manipulate others into cutting him slack. Whatever it may be, I am going to dive into these thoughts. There is zero evidence that this man was sweet-talked during the chat log. Hell, he didn't even really sweet-talk the decoy. She gave him ample opportunity to sweet-talk her. Moments where she displayed caution, hesitation, and apprehension. Moments that he could have taken and delved into a conversation about her feelings, life experiences, and bonded over a mutual understanding of existence. You know, sweet talk sort of things. But that was not present at all, and it makes me wonder if this man has had such a life of rejection and insecurity that anyone who is not instantly blocking or ignoring him is regarded in his mind as sweet talk.
You say, if you are ready for sex, I'll give it to you, but I have erectile dysfunction. Won't get real hard.
Well, that kind of blows his sweet talk argument out of the water, hey? I doubt Donald knew Hansen had the transcript, and to bring it out on that very line, that romance-infused line, really shows just how sweet the talk got.
Sure sounds like you were preparing for a sex act.
I was preparing for...
This will start Donald's frantic struggle to maintain any sort of control. As the chat log revelation so often does, this predator is thoroughly frazzled. The forehead is creased and eyes wide open. He knows he's in trouble now. He's worried, and watch now the bumble of words that spews out as he tries to find his ground.
Because she said that, I said, if you saw what I said, I said, if you want it, I will give it to you, but I'm not going to force anything that you don't want. I'm not going to force myself.
He got there in the end. That was a dicey one though, but our friend Donald made it. I think the relief was so intense when he found it, that it even forced him to take a breath mid-sentence.
Force anything that you don't want. I'm not going to force myself on you.
That doesn't make it legal, though.
I know it doesn't make it legal.
You're going to tell your folks about this?
I'm going to tell my folks about it.
You are?
Yes, sir.
How do you think they're going to react?
Oh, I know my mom's going to take my computer and completely throw it away.
You're 48 years old, Donald. Why should you rely on your mommy to do discipline?
For a 48-year-old man to say that his mother is going to completely throw away his computer shows to me that he is not mentally aged beyond a teenager. This would make sense why he chases after young girls. He likely connects with younger people, possibly via video games, chat rooms and forums. People his age would not be relatable to this man, as people his age generally would have a level of independence that Donald does not know. Most other 48-year-olds live in their own space, have a career and even families. By Donald saying that his mother will throw away his computer as punishment for soliciting sex with a minor, he has unknowingly revealed to Hansen, and all of us, just how underdeveloped his independence is. There could be a variety of reasons for why his life has gone down this path. For starters, I would like to say though that living with one's parents is not a bad thing, at any age. It all comes down to circumstance. Possibly one is taking care of their folks due to aging or illness. Possibly one has fallen on hard times and needs the support of loved ones to get them back on their feet, emotionally and or financially. Or maybe even one just has a great relationship with their parents, opting to live with people whom they enjoy being around, as the dynamic is no longer parent-child. These and many other reasons make living with parents okay, but when that living arrangement creeps into the realm of reflecting a relationship one should have grown out of years ago, then there is a major problem with the development of that person's independence. As we grow, we need to find our own voice, and quite often, although we may adopt traits from our parents, there's a high chance that we become much different people than they are. Each person has their own rules and standards that they like to live by. Some people are tidier than others, some more talkative, sociable, and others make a loud noise, like cooking breakfast early in the morning or staying awake late into the night. None of these things are illegal, but all of them can irritate another person if they are the right person to be irritated by it. An individual at some point in their life needs to go out on their own to find out who it is they are, to learn what makes them a complete person without the guiding lanes of a parent who has had much more time figuring out this stuff for themselves. If this journey is never had, then likely Donald here is the result. It is not his predator status in which I refer to, although that is a possible path that could come with it, but something else. A person who resembles a child, someone that likely no adult would want to connect with for more time than is ever necessary. The person would never learn lessons from anything that we all learn from. Obtaining new jobs, meeting new people, relationships starting and ending, arguments, experiences, all of these things assist us with getting to know ourselves. And without this, it would lead the individual to experience feelings of isolation, depression, hopelessness, and more. And likely, they would have no idea why this is. This is something that I believe Donald has been living with for a very long time, and evidence to support this is apparent in his very next line.
Because of, like I said, lack of judgment, being lonely, having no girlfriend, physical contact with anybody, just lost it.
If I'm reading correctly between the lines, Donald is expressing just how sad his existence is. He desperately wants to connect with someone. It's not just the physical intimacy that this man craves, but also the emotional. Despite this though, I opine that he would not be capable of it, even if it fell into his lap. A creepy place to fall, given the context of this video indeed, but you get what I mean. Who knows if his parents are to blame, or if it is more Donald at fault, if they overbearingly allowed him to become the child that he grew into, or if his laziness and lack of motivation allowed his loving parents to nurture him into a fully grown child. All that we can tell from this video is that he is here, he has a child's mind and reasoning capabilities, and he has sunk to the dark corners of human existence by becoming a predator.
What made you think that this might be a police operation?
Just after seeing all these things on Dateline, like I said, this is the first time I've done it since I've been here.
So you've seen all the Dateline stories?
Mm-hmm.
And what did you think of those stories?
I thought some of them were pretty bad. I mean, I saw the one where they were coming over for sex with boys and stuff like that, you know. And I'm not really into, pedophilia. This is probably considered that.
I'm not really into pedophilia is a pretty damning statement to make for him. Anyone who is innocent defends their innocence with heated confidence. But Donald here dances around this statement. Oh yeah, I'm not really into it, as he shrugs that casual shoulder. This leads me to believe that the man has a large amount of lewd imagery with minors stored not only on his computer, but in his mind. We've seen him so far be pretty honest, even though he does avoid details, and I believe that it's happening again here. He is admitting to what he is, without going into the details of it.
When you said you thought the Dateline stories were pretty bad, did you think the stories were bad because of what Dateline did, or did you think what the guys caught on Dateline did were bad? Or,
some of the things that Dateline did.
So wait, let me get this straight. So when you say you thought that the Dateline stories were pretty bad, are you talking about the stories or the guys who were caught in the stories?
The guys who got caught in the stories, and I know this is probably going to be on Dateline too, so go ahead and put it on.
Well, you know who I am.
Yeah, I know who you are. Once I recognized it.
There is a little visible moment of acknowledgement here as he states his recognition of the celebrity, the pause mid-sentence and the blink as he catches Hansen's gaze. Donald has likely had a feeling that he's been caught in this sting, and this here is the moment where he admits to himself the reality of it.
I know who you are. Once I recognized it. I recognized the voice. I don't really watch Dateline. I mean, I'm usually working 2 to 11.
I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC.
I understand.
Chris really wanted to hear his name being said out loud, hey?
I recognize it from the voice.
And everything you've just said and done has all been recorded.
Okay.
And if you have anything else you'd like to tell us, we'd like to hear it.
Just saying that, I shouldn't have done it. I mean, this is something I normally don't go out and do.
I want you to be honest with me. If I wasn't here tonight, and a young girl who was alone and willing to have sex, what do you think would have happened?
Probably would have happened.
Probably would have had sex. You would have gone ahead and done it.
Probably, yes. I mean, I could say honestly, yes, it probably would have if she would have, said, hey, let's go for it.
And you don't see anything wrong with that?
Yes, I do see things wrong with it, but I lack a judgment.
Donald dies on the innocent hill in one moment, and then admits guilt in the next. He doesn't make much sense at all. I guess that's the mystery of some people though, hey? They don't make sense. Some of the best people I know don't make sense. They are enigmas, existing one way, but then showing me at some point that everything I thought I knew of them is nothing more than an incorrect assumption. An assumption that I had made out of a need for people to fit into boxes in my mind. Up until this point in my life, I'd only really paid attention to enigmatic people on the positive side of human existence, and it's quite confronting to see them when they exist down here as well.
Donald, you're free to walk out that door. That same door you walked in.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing, kicking me in the pants and setting me straight, Chris.
This moment right here is one that I've pondered for quite some time now. As Donald thanks this man who has just revealed that he will be ruining what little peace he has in his likely sad life, it appears that he is fighting back a smile. Initially, when I watched this, I thought the smile was a nervous response that people tend to do when attempting to tiptoe through a difficult conversational moment. But as I rewatch it multiple times, I feel as though he is fighting back tears. If this is the case, then it makes sense why I have such an emotional response to this moment. I myself have done this many times in my life, fighting back tears. There's one time in particular that comes to me in this moment of reflection. I was in my first year of high school, which I believe in America is called middle school, and I was experiencing proper bullying for the first time. A few boys older than me were pushing me back and forth between them after school. As it happened, I remember feeling so angry and so helpless. Yet all I could do was to act casual and cool as I spoke with them during it. I didn't ask them to stop, but more play along with what was happening. Oh, good one. I almost tripped there. Knowing that they were mocking my words, I tried to show them that I was unaware of my status as the one being bullied, as though I was in on the joke with them. They called me names and treated me as if I were a ball in a pinball machine, and they threw my belongings around. I remember the smile that kept trying to creep in as my tears wanted to burst from my eyes, and all I could do when it was over was to walk home and pretend as though it hadn't happened, do my best not to cry, not to admit to myself that I wasn't strong enough to stand up to them. Someone grab a violin, hey? I know that story isn't so bad in the grand scheme of things, but up until that point in my life, I had not experienced that sort of hopelessness. I can't help but to feel, if Donald here is fighting back the tears, then maybe this is the first time that he's felt the true sting of life in such a way. Sure, he had gotten in trouble before with that young girl's grandfather, but he got off the hook. In this situation, he is the subject of the so-called bullies. Hansen stands there, playing the role in Donald's mind of a better man that he could ever hope to be. Hansen's little gang is there too, with cameras and equipment, snickering and laughing on the inside, not wanting to look this disgusting man in the eye. And to top it off, he has seen the program before. He knows outside the police lie in wait. There is no escaping this one. He has been bitten by the biggest bully of them all, and that bully is life. What can he do other than stand there and hold back the tears whilst he thanks this man for the rightly deserved punishment he had just received? Looks like he's still holding on to that victim mentality. But what a way to learn this lesson, hey? I do feel sorry for Donald. I don't condone what he did, or has done. I think that he is a vile creature that wouldn't have stopped until someone stopped him. But nonetheless, I do pity him in this fleeting moment.
Let's say it's a bit the first and a bit the last time. I'll give you permission to even monitor me if you want to.
I appreciate that.
I'm willing, if I could find a counselor, I'll go to counseling. Am I going to be arrested when I go out there?
That's not up to me.
Okay.
But you're free to go.
And that's Donald Morrison, hey? I know I had a big old speech near the end there about how he is nothing but a bullied little boy, but he blasts that theory out of the water in the very next moments that followed, telling Hansen that they can monitor him, that he has learned his lesson, and that he'll go to counseling. Then directly afterwards, he asks if he'll be arrested. Your claims of rehabilitation and monitoring seem to resemble that of someone trying to avoid trouble, Donald. Hansen does not confirm whether he will or won't be arrested, yet I'm fairly certain that Donald knows he will. And because of this, he defiantly slaps his papers off the table in a show of frustration and angst that his sob story did not work. I really do wish we had the uncut footage of this interview, as I believe that there is a lot missing from it. A hidden flow that I think would help me make more sense of the man. I've classed him as a mystery because of his choppy thoughts, but now that I think about it more, I did notice that the editors of this program decided to place things Donald had said after Hansen revealed his identity near the beginning of the video. If they had done this, then who knows what the true flow of this interview feels like. One day we may have the uncut clips, and when that day comes, I shall revisit Donald. But up until then, I would just have to operate as though the clip we've witnessed is a true representation of the man. I did say it before, but this man is an enigma to me. Is he a scared little bullied boy, or a cold-blooded predator trying to wiggle his way out of trouble yet again? To be honest with myself, he's probably both. Remember earlier I said enigmatic people don't fit into boxes? Well, here I am trying to fit him into a box, where the reality of the situation is likely that each and every one of us is an enigma to the right person. Just because I do or don't understand someone doesn't mean that you may not. And that's what I love about these sorts of people. They make me stop and think about my own thoughts. They make me question what it is I know and how the world might operate from another perspective. To you, this man might be nothing more than a bumbling, greasy idiot who requires no more thought or feeling beyond disgust. But to me, He is a bumbling, greasy mystery. I'm certain, as with all of these commentaries, that someone who watches this video will offer their own perspective on this man, and it will open my mind to things that I couldn't have seen on my own. And I look forward to that. It's one of the things that I enjoy about life, really, learning more from those around me. What's that saying? Every person knows something that you do not. Anyway, I'm getting carried away here. Time to refocus on Donald. I would like to know what the family dynamic with this man at home is like. It would shed a lot of light into his deeper personality and could present a few answers to questions that I have, such as, are his parents enablers? And does his home environment reflect the image that we see of this man here today? What I would not like to get lost amongst this moment of ponder is the fact that Donald is a dangerous man, possibly more dangerous than other predators, as he openly admitted to not only doing this with others, but having met and pushed his dirty desires onto at least one other girl that we know of. I'm glad that this man was caught here, because there is not a doubt in my mind that if he wasn't, he would have tried this again and again and again, until one of two things happened. Law enforcement stopped him, or death did, and who knows how many lives he may have traumatized along that long and grimy journey. As we come to the end of what is likely all that we will ever see of this man, I can't help but to wonder what turned him into this dangerous man-child. Was he always this way? Did he become this way after a tragedy? Did this experience actually kick him in the pants and get him to turn his life around? And my biggest wonder is who he may have become had he spent less time chasing after minors to fill the void of his loneliness and more time focusing on his own independence. After this sting, Donald was sentenced to 9 months in jail. He also had to register as a lifetime sex offender. In 2012, he violated his RSO status when he visited a North Fort Myers library and used the computer there to look at pictures of children.
I knew this was going to happen when Dateline was in there.
A library employee reported this to the police, and then Donald told them that he was assisting an incarcerated woman by sending her photos of her 9-month-old child.
I'm diabetic. Needles in your pocket? No, sir. Go to your knees to your chest. Roll up. Get my glass.
Donald is said to have a YouTube channel where he once defended his actions, but upon looking into it, I couldn't find those videos anywhere on it. All that remains there are a bunch of really strange and creepy things that I'd say you're really not missing out if you choose to not go over there.
Donald Morrison, you're charged with sex offenses against a child.
Your Honor, may I ask a question?
No, sir.
Okay.